Welcome to the third piece breakdown.
Creating a business is hard. Making it successful and viable is even harder. With almost 10 years of experience creating and building a sustainable knitwear brand, we're excited to kick off this new series where we're going to share the ins and outs of the business, who we are, and what we do. I'm Kristen Lambert, the founder of Third Piece.
I'm Hayley Mabry, the brand director here at Third Piece. Follow along with us on this continuous journey while we build the next American sustainable fashion brand. Okay, here we are, second episode of the breakdown.
And we are excited to be back. Last week, we kicked things off talking about a little bit more about behind the business of what we do here at Third Piece. We shared some ins and outs about our supply chain and how we go about sourcing our yarn and just some of the challenges that the post-pandemic world has done to our small business and ways that we're thinking about moving forward in a much more sustainable and strategic way. So that started to raise a lot of questions with us. We started going down the path of like slow fashion, sustainability. It's such a buzzword right now. And we really decided that it deserved its own topic of conversation. So that's what we're here to talk to you about today. Share a little bit more about what sustainable fashion means and like how we got here, and then talk about how it relates to us as a brand and what we're doing in our business to be sustainable.
Cool. Yeah, I'm excited for this. I think you'll find we'll have many episodes on this topic because this is just the start, but it's kind of how we got started in terms of being a sustainable brand. It's always been there underlying. But you know, there was a point that we're like, like a light bulb went out. Like everyone's talking about the sustainable like fashion trend, and like that's where we've been this whole entire time.
It's not a trend for us. It's not really
a trend.
For us.
Yeah, and hopefully it's not a trend moving forward. But I guess to kick things off.
Should I kill the music real quick?
Oh, maybe.
Okay, I'm gonna kill the music.
Okay, we can cut that part.
Okay, so much about
Music's killed. So to kick things off, let's talk about what sustainability means to us here at Third Piece as a company, because it's something we talk about a lot as a team.
It has lots of different like angles that you can look at sustainability. You can really take a look at it from the way you produce products to your supply chain to the way you manufacture and the way you also like think about your business. Like there's some businesses that want to grow super fast, gain as much market share as possible and really grow at an all expenses type approach. And for us and for me, like that just never seemed practical. And it just never seemed like a business that I wanted to grow. I wanted it to be something that felt sustainable in the sense that the business could continue to operate and invest in areas and really hopefully be a business that can make it through and stick around. And as a small startup, you are always trying to figure out what that means.
In a lot of ways, I think people think sustainability when they hear it right now, it has to be an environmentally conscious brand. It has to be doing stuff to help the environment. But really, sustainable means just that it's like self-standing, it's surviving.
Mm-hmm. Like the company level sustainability as to how we approach like our growth plan and how many units we want to make and how we think about like growing and scaling. And then you have like the product level.
Right.
And then on the product level, you can really think about it in so many interesting ways. From how you get your raw materials, where they come from, are you recycling, you working with recycled materials, and then even just thinking about like the people and the labor and all of the kind of shareholders that kind of come to be a part of a company, how those all kind of play a part in it.
Yeah, there's a lot of boxes to check for people when they're talking about what makes a sustainable company, and I think just even having some of those boxes checked is an important part of it.
Yeah.
As a small brand, it's hard to be able to tick every single box because we're still growing and there's only so much we can do, so much financially that we can do, and also as a small team, so much we can do. So that's one place to start. But I think it's always great to take a step back and kind of like go back to the word of sustainability. What sustainable is. It's just like kind of like keeping things status quo where people don't think that way anymore. But in terms of what sustainable fashion is and what a lot of people have been hearing, we can start talking about how we have been making steps to become a more sustainable fashion brand. let's tell everyone a little bit about, yes, the materials that we use, just the way that we produce, because that's sustainable, our production method.
When we think of sustainability, we really break it down on 3 levels. We think of it from a design perspective, our products, on a sourcing level, really the yarns and the materials that we bring in, and then on a production basis. So that means a lot of different things. From a design perspective, when we think about creating a new style, we really start with the concept. You know, what is a piece that we feel is necessary in our closet? What are the things that we wish as consumers that we are interested in buying? There is an element of trend which, you know, kind of conflicts with sustainability at times, but we're always thinking of things that we want to accent and complement our existing wardrobe, in that we want them to hang in our closet for many, many seasons and many, many years to come. And I have original pieces from 8 years ago that are still, that's the beauty of knitwear, is that you can clean it, you can really kind of work with the materials to make them like new, which is something you can't do with a lot of synthetic materials. But on the design side, you know, we think about it on like a product basis instead of a collection.
Yeah, for sure. We definitely lead with style and longevity. Functionality plays into it, and fashion as well. But I would say like that's kind of like how we think about it from top to
down.
bottom. So yeah, pieces that, like Kristen said, will hang in your closet for a long time, that don't really go out of style. They can kind of just grow with, that are heirloom pieces. And also from that perspective, so you have what's going to hang in your closet for a while, but then also what fibers, what raw fibers are going to able to kind of like
make sure that
hold
it can
and
last.
stand the test of time.
Totally.
Which ends up being natural fibers. We don't use a lot of synthetic.
Honestly, like natural fibers really, in my opinion, always win. Sometimes it's nice to have a natural fiber that's accented with a little bit of like a nylon or a synthetic, something to maybe give it structure if it is a more delicate fiber. But natural fibers are always best in terms of longevity and being able to go back into the environment with the least amount of impact. But also, just one other point on the design, like we also only usually design like 1 to 3 styles at a time. Like we really have streamlined our design approach to focus on 1 or 2 pieces that can really hopefully move its way into the collection in a nice kind of complementary way, going back to like not designing like a 20-piece collection that we don't know how it's going to perform.
Totally.
We really think of it on like a style by style basis.
Yeah, because that's not sustainable.
No, it's not.
Like our design team is 3 people, so if we were trying to crank out 20 styles each season, that feels overwhelming for us, and it kind of blends back into like how we run our business sustainably.
And to meet the traditional fashion calendar, where, you know, a lot of brands or clothing lines, like they'll roll out like a whole seasonal collection, sometimes 2 to 6 times a year, in really big kind of rollout forms. So for us, we've really kind of scaled it back. We focus on streamlining the styles and then gearing it back to sourcing. So that's where the materials, you know, in my opinion, materials make or break the garment. They also will make or break how long that garment might last. So materials and sourcing is so important in the cycle of us designing new pieces.
For sure. And then you get into the way that we produce our pieces. So here at Third Piece, there's a few different ways that you can get into or wear a third piece. One, you can make it yourself. You can learn how to make the things, or you can purchase one of our pieces, and that's where it becomes really special, because a lot of brands outsource their production to other countries. And yes, it's great. It definitely like cuts the costs, which cuts the costs on a consumer end. But since the very beginning, Kristen has always kept it here in the U.S.
Keeping it small batch, it's definitely hard. It's been a business decision that makes the business really complicated. So we've scaled it back a lot. You know, we used to put a lot and build out a lot of inventory for the fall and winter, and really you don't know where that inventory is gonna go. Like you build it and then you hope people buy it, and there's not really necessarily a pipeline to ensure that you're making pieces that people really want, that the demand is there, and that you are not going to be sitting on things at the end of the year. You know, it kind of goes back to like the fast fashion, super cheaply produced and priced goods that you can get very quickly. They don't really last. They end up being disposable at the end of the season. So really kind of going against the grain with that kind of mindset that was happening in the industry and as a consumer, and focusing on like really quality craftsmanship driven goods that should last and make you feel good at the end of the day with both your purchase and how they make you feel. So that to me is like so important and is in the backbone of what we do, and is just really the DNA and how we think about our products.
Yeah, for sure. And to think about fast fashion and where we fit in, I think sometimes, you know, you feel like you need to keep up because there's a lot of brands that are just like producing things so quickly. So then we're over here saying, oh my gosh, do we need to make 100 hats this season? How are we going to keep up? And there's been many aha moments, but I think even most recently we were just like, that's not working for us. Great thing to be able to pivot and decide.
Yeah. So on the production side, I'm going to switch gears and go to production. On the production side, like when we think about, we've been really focused on sweater design for probably the last 2 years. Like getting into sweaters and garments, being in knitwear just felt so like logical in terms of next steps and ways that we can continue to offer new styles. But with sweaters, it takes a lot of material, it takes a lot of labor. There's a lot that goes into them in order to get a either handmade or like small batch machine made garment. So we really kind of have taken an approach that was new to us. We rolled out made to measure, like our made to order, which kind of also falls into like a made to measure category, where you really work with us to get a garment that is made, handmade, or small batch machine made that's still hand finished, just for you. So it really was an expansion into new products that we're still refining. We're still working on what the sweater collection is going to look like, but it was one that we wanted people to want it. You know, we didn't want to just go make 1,000 sweaters and not know if the sales demand was going to be there. So that was the first way that we've been approaching it and thinking about how we can be much more streamlined in our production practices. I think kind of also going back to like our roots, like that's where we started. We started just doing like small batch knits that were locally made by really talented knitters, women, and a community of makers here in the Boston area, and like keeping that element of the business and creating opportunities for knitters has just been, for me, the most rewarding aspect of the business. The women that make our pieces are so special to me and have really helped me build this business and get it to where it is. So there's really an element of that which is so special and unique to what we do.
Yeah. So kind of with that, start to talk about at what point did we really think of sustainability as a fashion play? And there was one piece, it wasn't a garment, it's a bag, that kind of like made us start to think about it and the approach. That was probably three, maybe even 4 summers ago. Summer has always been challenging. Like when you're in knitwear, like it's very much like fall, winter, it's very seasonal. So developing a spring, summer collection or figuring out how to create products all year round that makes sense for what we do and for our customers was always like a challenge that we have been diving into over the years. But the bag collection was one that we were sourcing fibers that were all really like the fibers industry has done a lot in terms of recycled materials, really working to figure out ways to do full circle type manufacturing on the actual fibers to be able to produce some really innovative yarns to make our goods. So that was something that we saw. We had a recycled denim material that we really loved, and then that really kind of sparked out the idea and also understanding of how sustainability comes into play. Yeah. The recycled denim was really cool because I believe it was a father-daughter mill, right, in Guatemala that was taking old denim and spinning it back. And then there was another yarn that was made out of recycled t-shirts. So we had a few bags that we made with it, but the one that kind of hit it off was our Newport bag, which was an everyday market bag. It blended what we had talked about a little while ago, that fashion, functionality, and style perfectly together. We still have it. You can take it to the grocery store. You can take it to the beach. You can put your laptop in it. You can use it in so many different ways, and it's so durable. Every single fiber we've made it in, because we've tried it in a few different ones. It can stand the test of time. So I think it was a really cool first product to kind of lead.
Yeah, it was the first kind of hit that we had where we're like, okay, now we think we have like some really unique pieces in terms of thinking of the either warmer demographics or warmer seasons. But there's actually one over there, and like Hayley said, like we develop a pattern and like it sticks with us. It might evolve over the seasons, and we take a look at how we could enhance it. Like, does the handle need to be longer? Does somebody want it wider? Do we get feedback? But we take the products and the patterns into consideration, and then we also move them into different yarns and materials to kind of test them out. So the patterns themselves have a nice life cycle that we don't just kind of dispose of them. We really work to like enhance them and refine them year over year to get them to continue to make them perfect.
Yeah. And the cool thing about this exact bag and the yarn that it's in, if you listen to our last episode, we talked about kind of some of the struggles with sourcing, and I just remember talking to Kristen and we were like, what are we going to do for bags this year? Like, what yarn do we have? And when Alex showed us this Echoview fiber, we were like, wow, this is awesome.
Yeah. Echoview Mills is a new mill that we've been working with, and this is our first like truly domestically sourced and spun material. We've been really working to find mills and just what's going on in the textile industry here in the States, and it's been growing. There is definitely some mills that continue to operate, or mills that have kind of operated, but Echoview is a cool one. It was started in 2012 actually by an environmentalist in Hart, and really the concept was built around creating a place where farmers could take their wool and their fleeces from the animals to a facility that could help them kind of clean them, comb them, and spin them up and turn them into yarn, as farmers are really not in that kind of second phase of the production life cycle. This was really meant to be an innovative approach to being able to do that and really kind of grassroots the textile production here. It's in North Carolina. And we were able to connect with a member of their team and learn a little bit more about their mill. It's super, super fascinating. I feel like we had to get some notes and just like think about all of the takeaways in terms of like what they had to offer.
Well, one of the biggest things was cotton's very water intensive.
Yeah.
And that's what we're using here. So when you're sourcing cotton from other countries, then you're shipping it over here, then you're dyeing it, then you're washing it, and then you're shipping it out again.
Mm-hmm.
The carbon footprint on that is just so massive.
I never thought about, like, that was something, I mean, it's so insane how like your goods end up getting to your door, but those are just really interesting things that I find myself really fascinated with. There's something about just like wanting to learn to try to do better and like do the best that we can.
So for the cotton that we brought in, it has a very cool life cycle. The cotton is coming from California.
Yeah, it's an organic
cotton from California. Then it goes to Georgia, and that's where it gets spun. It's these long staples of cotton. It gets spun there, and it gets dyed there as well, I believe. And then it gets brought to North Carolina at Echoview Mills, and they have this old shoelace machine that they've like remanufactured that takes all of the pieces and knits it together to create the fiber. So yes, you're almost like, okay, well, it's coming from California to Georgia to North Carolina, now up to Boston. But if you think of that on like a worldwide scale, how much smaller of a footprint that is, it's pretty amazing. Time
and like logistics, and things either have to travel by boat or by air, and raw materials often come from all over, and then they can get sent into other countries. So it's just, if you're kind of into that like nerdy like textile manufacturing supply chain stuff, it's really fascinating what's been going on. And The state's lost a lot of their manufacturing capabilities over the past couple of decades, so it's really nice to see that there is a return in the agriculture and textile industry, and that it's happening in North Carolina, and we're excited to be working with them and to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's awesome. On that note, there was a quote that Grace said when we were on the phone with her, and it was about, she said, in her mind, the key to sustainability is this. In terms of textile, it's careful sourcing and making responsible choices when it comes to fiber. And I think that last thing, responsible choices, is really what sustainability is just intentional, responsible decisions, whether it comes to what you're knitting with, what you're buying,
What
who you decide to work with,
what you put on your body, what you put on your body, like,
and what you eat, all of the things. So Kristen and I have, we follow this Instagram account.
It's called Remake Our World.
Remake Our World. And we thought it would be fun to do like a quick round of shocking fashion facts. It's like some kind of wild things, and this is just hitting some of the surface.
Yeah.
Okay, so one, this is crazy. Remake Our World posted that 20% of all industrial water pollution is caused by textile production. So it's a huge amount if you think about it.
Yeah, there's a lot of
crazy.
water that goes into producing garments. Like you said, like it happens with like the raw materials. They get cleaned, they get combed, they get carded, and then like garments themselves often go through a lot of dyeing and the whole process to get them actually on a hanger and out the door really is very water intensive.
Yeah. Okay, you go next on your card.
The second fast fashion fact that we are sharing from Remake Our World is that in 2008, again we're pulling this from Remake Our World, but based off of them, that H&M destroyed $4.3 billion worth of unsold goods. That number blew my mind. That is like really insane. But essentially what is happening is that big companies that are producing extremely large mass amounts of clothing and garments, they're producing based off of supply. Like they want to produce a large amount so that they can have the opportunity to sell them. But what can oftentimes end up happening is that at the end of the life cycle of a product, a sweater can only hang on a rack for so long before it goes through a discounting approach and then eventually makes its way into what is considered dead stock, and then it either gets shipped off to somewhere else or another outlet or some other channel to try to be sold. And at the end of however is deemed that life cycle, it gets put into either a landfill or it gets burned. So that really is just a whole concept around like so unsustainable, just so it just seems unnecessary in many ways in terms of thinking of things in a very large grand scale. So super interesting.
Yeah. I have to share, which again is from Remake Our World, was reported from the World Economic Forum, thank you, World Economic Forum, that the world's fast fashion cycle is equivalent to one garbage truck of clothing being dumped or burned every second.
I think the main takeaway from a quote like that is just really to illustrate, and get the visual of a dump truck of clothes just going into a landfill or like going into incinerated, just being burnt up, and just kind of visualizing what that does and just how wasteful it is. Just the way people shop, people shop a lot differently now than they did even 10, 20 years ago. People used to look at shopping in terms of, really outfitting their closet and creating a wardrobe of pieces that can be rewearable, versatile, things that they can, either bring back or bring out season over season, and start to think about incorporating heirloom style garments or the pieces that really will stay in style or in your wardrobe for quality.
Quality pieces for sure.
Fun fact is that since between 2000 and 2014, it's estimated that the apparel purchases by consumers has gone up by over 60%. So I could relate to that as a consumer because, in my 20s, when I started my career and I was making money, I definitely went crazy with shopping. I definitely would find, any reason to go get a new outfit. If I was going out, I would just go haphazardly go buy like a random outfit for the night. And then I really started to like think about the things that I wanted to wear and think of it in a category basis, like really thinking about denim, really thinking about shoes, and starting to shop much more strategically and intentionally, and like researching the things that I wanted to wear. I think the internet has done that. I mean, I think you can do research online that you couldn't do that before. So in some ways it makes it easier, and then in some ways it makes the options feel very overwhelming.
For sure. And I to think about it, that 2000, at least I remember, that's kind of when H&M popped up at the mall for me. Definitely like 2005 is when Forever 21 was around.
Like Zara.
And Zara. And yeah, I totally like would go to Forever 21 and just buy something for $10, not thinking about it because you're young, you're just like want to look cute.
Talking about the life cycle of clothing, I mean, that was the one thing that I go back to, is that when I was buying pieces at a lower price point, or just kind of buying things to fill my closet if they were like on sale, is that things just didn't seem to last that long. You would wash them once and like you'd get a hole in the armpit. Oh, the dreaded hole in the armpit, like always happens.
Or down here.
Yeah.
Those like little like things in your cotton t-shirts.
Like the stitching would just unravel, or it was just never worth it to like go return it, and it was just so much easier to either throw it out or feel like you could donate it. And then a lot of times, even when you donate them, like you don't know what happens. It still ends up in a landfill a lot of the time. So the life cycle of clothing has really shifted, and I've really worked to kind of build a closet that comes back year over year, and really have pieces that can hang there, or think about like reselling them on different platforms like the RealReal or consignment stores, and ways to kind of think about the cyclical approach to fashion and thrifting and vintage, which is such a fascinating, exciting area. I love the whole idea, and really kind of thinking about clothes from either like remaking it or vintage and thrifting is so fun.
Yeah. And you know, as we're having this conversation, everyone has their own opinions of what's sustainable, what's not, what's right, what's wrong. We're just having a conversation about how we feel about it and from our perspective.
Yeah, I think it's learning, and I think there's just like something about bringing a little bit more awareness to it. And as a brand, what's important to us and how we think about product and design, and ways that we're building Third Piece to be a sustainable brand on many, many levels. So
yeah, for sure.
So that was our
little
intro spiel about slow fashion, sustainable fashion. It's definitely a buzzword. It's something that you're seeing bigger brands like H&M, Madewell, and really these like mass market based fashion companies tap into. So there's a lot of greenwashing when it comes to that.
I've been seeing that a lot.
Would really encourage you just to like think about it, do your research, and
shop small.
Shop small. So more to come on this, and again, this is the Breakdown. It's a behind the scenes, conversation driven, new approach. Hayley and I are working together, and follow along.
And we'll see you next time. Bye.